Welcome to Just Saying episode 21. And lots to talk about, of course, because we've just had Birmingham Open number 2, which just wrapped up yesterday. And there's a lot of drama and things to talk about, and we'll certainly get to that. And welcome in chat to the Bromeo and LDC. Good to see you in chat. That's really, really cool. Parapelka. Okay, Syntax. Oh, no, this is all from another day. Never mind. Okay, so Pegasus is here. Harmonic is here. Dijon is here. Am I right about that? Am I seeing the right chat?
Yeah, you are.
I am seeing the right chat. Sorry, I have ongoing technical issues. I'm a little traumatized by my technical problems. But we have, as per usual, the Bromeo, but as per not usual, the Cosmico coach sitting in his dark basement. LDC, how are you?
I'm good. Thanks for having me on.
Well, listen, we're going to be enjoying your insights shortly, and no Falcon this weekend. What was his lame excuse, Bromeo? Something about a dinner.
Oh man, he comes up with the lamest excuses. It's like it's not even something deeply interesting. It's just like, I've got to take my dog for a walk or something like that.
All right. Well, Falcon is off doing something probably not very interesting. But we have LDC here, the coach for Cosmico. So first off, LDC, let's you've featured on a few things. I'm pretty sure I did a Rocket Dreamers episode with you probably 2 years ago, 3 years ago.
Yeah, that's a long time ago.
A very long time ago, and I think you were on another episode of the podcast maybe about a year and a half ago. But give us the LDC introduction. Who the hell are you? Where are you from? And what on earth are you doing here?
So I'm a Belgian, so European Rocket League coach. I've been active in the game for pretty much as soon as it came out. So I've been involved with the game for quite a long time. Started up in my own local scene in the Benelux. So Belgium, Netherlands, and Luxembourg is like a small sort of region in Europe by itself, much similar to like what the DACH region is with Germany and Austria and all of them. Built my way up from there.
Are you saying it's like the SSA of Europe?
In some ways, maybe it's similar. Sure. It's had its golden era, like I would say, like probably around like between 2018 and 2020, like before COVID started becoming a thing. We had plenty of quite big tournaments with some LAN parties, with prize pools and this and that. But unfortunately, since COVID, much like any other region, much like any other industry, it's been on low fumes, I gotta say.
Yeah. And how I just have to say quickly, it feels like we're having a coach gathering. We got you on the podcast, we got Asterix in chat, we got Dijon in chat. This is great. Let's get all the coaches out there. And how how did you A, become involved with SSA, and B, how did you come to be the Cosmico coach?
Well, a couple of years ago, I had someone from SSA reach out to me through like a coaching website. So I coached an SSA player back then, and that's sort of how I got introduced to the region, and I started paying attention to it a little bit because I was coaching this player. And yeah, I immediately noticed how passionate everyone was, how everyone wanted, to make it and to become the next biggest player from the region, or maybe even in the world. And it reminded me a little bit of how my region was back when I mentioned the golden era. Like it related to me a little bit in that way, because everyone is super passionate and everyone wants to grind as hard as they can. And then from there on, I moved on to other regions. I started coaching in other regions as well. Before last season, I made my way back into SSA again with Zany, and then got in contact with the owners from Cosmico that wanted to get back into the SSA region. They had a team before. I actually when I got approached by them, I actually didn't know that, but that was before or like just before when I was back introduced into the region. And yeah, since then we've been working together. We've been building rosters. Obviously we've made a pretty big change before the season started. But yeah, we're here now. We're doing pretty well, I think. We're growing steadily, and we're looking to keep that moving.
So, you're now the Cosmic coach,
Hmm.
and pretty much leading the charge for the region aside from Limitless. We're gonna get into how we did over the weekend and what we didn't do and all of that
Hmm.
shortly. But just in brief, how are you feeling about Cosmico, the roster, all of that in general, before we drop down into performances and all of that fun stuff?
I feel like I feel like our roster is super balanced, and on the parts of having you know mechanical players in the name of Guns and Cam. Like obviously Werty has good mechanics as well, but his strengths lie more in like his game knowledge and the way he can behind the scenes like manage the mentality of the team, because he's one of those players that takes the forefront in communication as well as like in between goals, in between games. He'll be the one to to give feedback and to to keep the guys in check. So that makes my job a lot easier as well. Um, yeah, I feel like our team is super well balanced in that way, and that's why we've been doing so well, I think.
I have a vital question around your super balanced team.
Mm,
We had a conversation, I'm pretty sure it was on the podcast, Bromy, if I remember correctly. And I was talking about, we have to get to the point where SSA teams are beating Limitless on a regular basis. And I
mm,
asked Werty about that. And for him, one of the key things was a consistent roster. And I
mm-hmm,
and seeing what Cosmico is doing is fantastic. But what makes me nervous is that between splits, it's like, hey, let's try somebody else on the roster, and I feel like if this roster stays together for this entire season and into next season, there is
mm-hmm.
every chance of being that proper region dominating team.
Yeah, I agree. I feel like having a long-term project is always more beneficial in the long run. Um, I think that for instance, beating Limitless is definitely within our grasp. I feel like the series we played in the upper bracket against them on the Saturday was, I think, the closest we've been to beating them. I mean, in scrims, like scrims, we split games, or we might win a scrim, or we might lose a scrim. But obviously on the game days is when it matters most. And I felt like when I watched the fallback from that upper bracket semi-final, I felt like we had all the opportunity to just 4-0 them, because like the 3 games that we lost after game 1 were like, yeah, there were 1-goal games, and we were sort of crossbar merchants in that whole
Mm.
series. I felt like, so I feel like we were really close to beating them. Obviously we didn't, so we need to keep working to make sure that everything that went wrong there is going to be fixed in the future. But yeah, I feel like it won't take long as well for us to not be the only one to contest Limitless on their top 1 spot. Yeah, we're trying obviously to keep the rest of the squad, or like the rest of the region behind us, so that we can 1v1 Limitless by ourselves.
Mm.
But I don't know for how long we will be able to, of course.
Yeah,
I mean,
always.
that's a valid point. We've always cried that Limitless is the top and nobody can touch them, and of late they've definitely shown that they have their vulnerabilities. Um, and you guys are doing a very good job of starting to push them, and I have no doubt that if you guys stick around and stick together, you will start pushing them. Are there any other current SSA rosters or players that maybe we haven't noticed, but aside from the Tashaus and the Ravis, who's really impressed you so far?
Um, I mean, yeah, obviously the roster on Hypo has been, especially the last regional, one of the outstanding teams that we obviously seen improve quite a lot over a very short period of time, and that's what you get with like combining 2 very young players with more like a veteran type player with skill steal.
Mhm.
On the other hand, I felt like not a lot of teams really impressed. I think that one of the players that's definitely been lurking in I guess you could say the shadows for being like an still a really good player is, for instance, Willu. I think he is a very, very solid player. His team, obviously has had its ups and downs. Zany, obviously from coaching him before, I know that he's a very talented player as well. So I hope to see them, consistently making main
If
events in the
y'all
future
don't
as
follow
well.
Graybeard, you need to get in there.
But yeah, the other teams, they just have to work. The only way that you can beat these EU teams coming in is just by hard work. That's what we've been doing. Coaching is super important. So yeah, it's for all the rest to catch up to us, I think.
I've actually got a pretty interesting stat on Willu now that you mention him. He's the only player in our region to beat both Maestros and Limitless. Because he beat Limitless the last time they lost to an SSA team, which was French class in 22-23. And recently they beat Maestros as Decimate. And so yeah, we lose the only player, and I thought that was pretty interesting.
Yeah.
So we're going to move into the recap now, but there's DSQ Esports have done a podcast which they're calling Behind the Screens. I did an interview with them yesterday, and I see that they have posted it. So I'm putting a link in chat, which is to their Twitter announcement of that. Then you can go and watch the video if that's something you want to do. And then Bromeo has pinned a chat, or pinned a comment in the chat. How did we do at the bringing him regional? So if you want to answer that, let's get some thoughts and opinions of chat. So anything you want to say on that we can bring it up and discuss it. Because
I do think it's very important, chat, as we want to get you more involved. So the things we talk about, we want to hear what you have to say about it as well. So we'll pin stuff here in the chat. Feel free to respond to it, and then so we can talk about it directly as we talk about it here. So yeah, that's all I wanted to mention.
And we are, of course, and well, Bromeo says I like to call it the agony. Bromeo says I'm the only one that seems to be in agony. But when we talk about EU playing in SSA, a prevailing comment is, well, it'll make us better, but we have to go through short-term pain in order to get long-term gain. But that pain feels like the agony, and it feels like we are deep into it right now. I mean, we came really close yesterday to having, for the very first time, not a single SSA player in the grand finals. And if that's not agonizing, then I'm not sure what is. So yeah, there's a lot to go over here. I do think, and LDC, you've touched on it, that as a region, I do think we are playing better, but we're not quite there yet. The first regional, we had 3 SSA teams in the top 8. This last one, we only had 2, and there weren't even any other African rosters that we could sort of somehow claim as our own. There it was literally 6 EU teams, 2 SSA teams, and considering that, it was fantastic that half the top 4 were SSA. So huge shout out to Cosmico and of course Limitless for being in that top 4. So there are some hopeful signs, but it's also pretty tough as we go and recap the weekend. So I think let's get your high level view, LDC, of the regional that just happened.
I mean, if we're looking at Group A here, the upper brackets, then for this group, I think that what everyone thought was going to happen basically happened. I felt like every sort of matchup was sort of quite predictable, and that prediction mostly came to fruition as well. Hayweather is obviously taking number 1 seat, us taking the second one. I feel like this sort of group speaks for itself. I don't really think that there's a lot to talk about in that one. The one thing though in the lower bracket on this group that was quite a surprise to me personally is that Hybo got like a pretty clean 3-0 sweep over Pony no Jutsu.
Yes.
Me and the boys were talking, and when we were finished, or like when we were waiting for our final matchup, we were looking at this, and we were all discussing like who we thought was going to win this, and basically we all agreed that probably Pony no Jutsu would have the upper hand in this matchup, but they surprised us, and I think like that's where the sort of smaller Cinderella story for Haribo basically began for us.
And then it kind of ended in the lower semi-finals with Le Bosch,
Yeah.
who are a very good team, and they were swept there. But I feel like the experience they're getting, every regional they play is going to be great for their depth and knowledge and experience as they go forward. I know that Highball are looking for a coach, so if there are coaches out there interested in picking up one of the big highlights of the SSA region right now, Highball is a very good team to get in touch with. And I mean, it was pretty. Was this the group that had all the SSA teams? It was. There were 6 teams in the top 16. Was it only 6? It was only 6, and 5 of them were in Group A, which you felt should have meant that at least 2, maybe even as many as 3, could have come through into the top 8. But it was only Cosmico that survived that shellacking to come out of Group A, and then Group B, Limitless, were all on their own, but importantly beating Maestros to take the top seed in that group. And with the greatest of respect, and whenever somebody says with the greatest of respect, what is about to follow is very little respect. But anyway, with the greatest of respect, Leoro's comments were a little infuriating, if I'm honest. Like, yeah, we were just partying and having a good time in Cape Town and showed up to play here. I don't know. I just the deep arrogance in that kind of hacked me off a little.
Do you know what? It was deadpan. It might even be 100% factual. But then again, it is on to us how we want to react. Had they lost, we would have not mentioned it at all.
Fair enough.
So I think that Maestros are definitely the team to beat, especially if they are not even sitting at their keyboards most of the time, according to them. But look, they were rusty this weekend. They went down to Limitless on the Friday.
Convincingly, 3-1.
Yep, they dropped 2 games against Trifecta, and they weren't looking their usual solid selves. So they backed it up by saying they haven't been playing much, and that's a valid reason. So ultimately they clutched it up, they brought it through, they took the regional. So their comments, justified or not, are there. It is what it is.
It are what it are. Okay, so what that all meant is that going into the top 8 were Hayworth Riz, Maestros, Limitless, Cosmico, Labosh, Chris Colon, 77 Blocks, and Mustu Fluck. And it was kind of 77 Blocks. They came out storming. They looked. I mean, they didn't make the first regional, make top 8 in the second regional, sweep Mustu Fluck, which has been another sort of loud and obnoxious team, and they were swept out, and then got hammered by Cosmico. You must have been pleased with that result, LDC.
Yeah. I mean, we've scrimmed all of these teams before. We know how every team plays. We know how we have to change little things to make sure that we counter whatever they're doing. 77 Blocks. To be honest, I didn't see their match against Mustafluk. From my experience, Mustafluk is not that great of a team. I felt like in the lower bracket of the GSL groups, I felt like Genesix definitely had a really good chance to beat them, and I think they definitely should have. I think Genesix probably has a really nice playstyle going into Mustafluk, but I don't know. I obviously didn't really see the games itself, but 4-0, it's pretty self-explanatory. And then we know how Banas and them play. We've scrimmed them multiple times as well, so we know what to do, and came with the win.
I'm gonna say something here, and feel free to disagree with me, but I feel we all complain about import teams occupying spots that should be SSA. Well, I'm going to say Labosh, Chris Colon, 77 blocks, and even to some extent Mustufluk can easily be beaten by some of our more peripheral teams. That's, one of those spots are only occupied by them purely because we didn't perform, not because they are better than, our entire region. Because I am so certain that the Highballs and the Genesixes, especially, should have been performing better against those sort of teams, because they did not impress when they got into top 8. And, they are certainly not a Hayworth Riz or a Maestros. So I feel like the first target shouldn't be Limitless. I feel like the first target shouldn't be Maestros. It should just be clearing them. And LDC, you said something pretty interesting. You said you've scrimmed all of them. So by all of them, do you mean Labosh must do 77 blocks? Are they scrimming freely? Is this the thing?
I do think the team that we scrimmed the most up until now is who is it again? Labosh. I forgot their name because they name changed, but yeah, Labosh we've been scrimming quite a lot, I think. Inspire is a player that I've known from before. I don't really have a problem with them per se. I also think that in the short term or in the long term rather, EU teams coming to SSA to play is good for the region, or it's like good for the players as long as the players don't get demotivated by it. The only thing that I think is really, really unfortunate is that the placing for the major. Obviously, it would be super nice to have an actual local team for SSA represent the region in the major. Obviously, that's not gonna happen. So yeah, I mean, there's still a chance, but realistically speaking, that's probably not going to happen. But yeah, other than that, I don't really think that there's a lot of downside or like really annoying stuff happening with like EU teams playing here. The only thing that really bugs me is like the representation at the majors. That's the only thing really.
Yeah,
And that's fair.
That's completely understandable too.
And just to echo you there, Bromeo, I think that if we think of Highball, Genesix, Decimate, even Chocoranilla, Pony no Jitsu, I'm trying to think if there's anyone else off the top. At least those 5 teams should be positioning themselves to beat the teams you've mentioned. Mustufluk, Labosh, who else is there? 77 block, certainly Astronic, but Astronic is struggling. You feel that those 5 teams should be overcoming those 4 teams.
I agree completely. And look, Noob Slice said SSA represented really well from our upper echelon. Would love to see 2 more teams compete within the top 8. He mentions Highball and Genesix not making top 8 was a shocker. Harmonic even said there's been improvement from last regional, definitely. So
yeah,
what I might say might be controversial, because this is the sentiment that was echoed when they first arrived, is that import teams are not scrimming us. It is not beneficial to the region. And what's happening? We're scrimming against them. So, I'm trying to point out is that we make lots of excuses for why we don't do well. But now scrimming is not one of them.
And I think
I maybe want to cut in here just a little bit fast. Like obviously I'm talking out of the position of Cosmico, which is the second best team in the local to the region. So I can't say if these teams are also scrimming other teams. Like I don't know if they're scrimming Decimate or scrimming Genesix, and obviously I can't speak about that.
But for sure. But my point is that how many teams scrim against Limitless? This, this is my... Yeah, no, for sure. I understand that. But there's lots of other teams who, will get blocked. And it's just the natural order of things. That's not a import thing. It's just a level thing. And that's understandable.
Well, listen, when it was SSA only, there was a struggle with scrims.
Yeah. So
it's not like we were all a happy family and all just loving each other and scrimming each other all day and trying to get each other to improve. It was a dog world out there, and it remains so. It's just there's more dogs.
So yeah, that's I'm working to a point here. So I feel like we cannot complain about lack of scrimming opportunity. 77 Blocks has been in the region for over a year now, and they're not posting consistent results against SSA teams. So we cry about not being able to make top 8, but we're getting to a point where the excuse isn't that because somebody came and took it from you. The reality is that somebody came and took it from you because you're not good enough.
Ouch. And there is absolute truth in that, and there is. We're at a point. This is our life now, and I made this very long and impassioned speech at the end of the broadcast last night. But this is our life now, and our choices are simple. We either decide that it's too difficult and too hard, and we walk away from it, or we choose to fight. And from what I'm seeing, there are some local people who are very clearly want to fight. The Highballs, and I do put Decimate in there, but we must talk about them a bit because I think they've got to be desperately disappointed with their results. Cosmico, of course, but they're in a class of their own right now. Highball for sure, Pony no Jitsu. There are absolutely teams who want to fight, and we've got to find our local solutions. And there are, it used to be all about RLCS 2 years ago was all about, okay, let's go for being the second best team in the region. That was our goal.
that is my whole point, is that we are crying, but RLCS and SSA was who was better, Pirates or Bravado, and most of the time it was Pirates. And every single regional followed that exact recipe. It's basically a curtain raiser to the Pirates Bravado final. And very rarely would you see another org, pop in and do something about that. And I'm sorry, that was awful. I hated watching it. It was boring. And it's indicative of a region with very poor health with regards to the player base, because that should not be happening. 2 teams busy, having our region by a chokehold. I mean, we could even put it down to 1, because I was having a look at the head-to-head history of Limitless versus anybody, and it makes for dire reading. And I didn't enjoy watching that. And this whole import thing, we cry about it, but it only truly benefited like 8 players. Everybody else is doing as well as they ever have. So no longer is there a free ride to top 8.
Well,
go for it.
No, finish your thought.
So no longer is there a free ride to top 8. And if you're crying about not being able to make top 8, imagine being in EU and making top 8 as a GC1. It should not be that way, and I don't know why people are so damn upset. We always wanted to play against better opposition. Well, here we are. Here's your better opposition. You're playing against them. What's next?
But
you want to,
The only thing I want to challenge on that, Bromeo, is that I think there are actually a lot more players than we think who are getting on the grind, who are looking to be better, who do want to get there. The problem is that those who whine and complain tend to whine and they whine and complain a lot louder than the guys who just want to grind are shouting about how they're grinding. And I go back, I think it was about 5-6 weeks ago, I did a survey amongst local players, asking like, how motivated are you to play? And by and large, the majority of players said that they were motivated to get better, and this whole situation was motivation for them to be better. But when you ask them the question, what do you think other people feel about it? That in the majority, players think everybody else is upset. But on a personal level, they're on the train. They want to get there. They want to grow. And despite the 2 SSA teams that were in the top 8, we've mentioned 5 others that should be and could be in that top 8 that are there and just need a little bit of a push. And I didn't even talk about Ox Gaming, who are sort of a little bit more on the periphery. They're sort of bubble, but they got Asterix as a coach now. They should be coming into that scene hopefully soon. but they are there, and Chocoranilla, I think, have the makings of a top 8 team. I think they made top 8 in the first regional, if I'm not mistaken. I think they were eliminated in the in the lower quarters, but so they are there. We just got to sort of push them that little bit further, and absolutely get rid of the Laboshes, the Must-Do Flux, the 77 blocks, Astronic. That level of EU teams should be being cleared by our teams. And since we're talking about what are the benefits of the situation as it exists now, let's talk outside of RLCS players. The amount of focus and attention on this region we would never have had. All through the first 2 seasons of SSA and RLCS, the only time anybody outside of SSA ever paid attention was when Limitless and Orlando Pirates, whatever iteration of that roster, went to either Wild Card or Worlds. That was once a year for 2 years. And that was it. That was the only time anyone ever gave a shit. But now we have people deeply invested in the region. There are eyes on the region. We've people like LDC who've come in, who are bringing their expertise into the region. People like Asterix, who I've now name-checked 3 times. People like Dijon. Who else have we got out there? There's a few of them that are coming, and I fully expect that more will come out to share their expertise with us. And there are levels that we've got to accomplish. And maybe first and foremost is get rid of the middle level EU teams who are playing at 180 ping. Let's start clearing them, and then we can then go, okay, now we've got to beat Cosmico, now we've got to beat Limitless, and then we can start to focus on the Hayworth Riz and the Maestros. So there's a very clear path for us. But
I agree. And I mean, look at it. Look at the fact that we have more eyes on this region than we have ever had. I think our stream was peaking at like 800, viewership over the weekend. And I remember a time when it was the final of, whatever regional it was, and there were like 70 or 80 people watching it. And that was, peak for us back then. And I think about, the LDCs and everybody who's here now, because it's become a truly global thing. The amount of resources, the amount of eyes, the amount of hands coming in to help the region. And we sit back and we cry about it and say, no, this is ours. I mean, what do you want? There's not much going on here. The only thing that you can possibly want is free prize money up until top 8. That's all you're asking for at this point. And if you're asking, well, this is going to be a hot take, is that I get to watch one of our SSA teams go to Worlds or go to a wild card once a year to not win a single game.
Yes.
I don't enjoy that.
No.
I don't enjoy it at all. It's not enjoyable.
And I'm going to enjoy it less watching a Spanish SSA team get maybe win one game. But
do you know what?
I'm 100% behind you.
I get more enjoyment out of hate watching somebody else lose than I get from watching Limitless underperform. And I would much rather spend the time grinding here, getting better, earning that spot, so that when they finally get there, we can say, okay, well, now they stand a shot. I want to see them take a few games. I don't want the whole objective of, this team at Worlds is just to maybe steal a series or 2.
Yes.
No. Bugger that. I don't want that.
Our goal has to be a major top 8. That's where we've got to be grinding for. It cannot be just get to a major. That's horrendous. We've got to have that bigger goal and that long-term goal. I mean, and the bizarre, from a spectator point of view, and I don't know how other people in SSA feel, like Haibor up against Pony no Jitsu. I hated that series. That's 2 SSA teams, and you're going, one of them is going out here, and it's horrendous. And I hated watching it because I'm gonna be happy and cry whatever the result is. But, watching Limitless play Hayworth Riz and it goes to 7, fantastic. Watching Limitless beat the Maestros. Watching Cosmico, who did Cosmico beat? We were just looking at it. What was that series? That was immensely 77 blocks. That was immensely enjoyable. Not as much so because it wasn't that close. Cosmico were really, really good. But if that had gone to 5 games or whatever, there's more satisfaction in watching an SSA team beat an EU team because it's more of a marker of where we're going. So yeah, it's been interesting for me to see the development in myself in terms of my emotional feelings about all of this from when from the good old YMC days, and then going to, well, if you're going to play in SSA, you should be coming here to help the region, and then finally getting to realize that that's a stupid expectation. And like anything in life where there are a collection of people, you are going to have your percentage of really good, decent people, and you're going to have your percentage of assholes, like you have anywhere. Get any 10 people together, and they've probably got the international average of assholes, good people, dishonest people, honest people, and so on. So in this,
I thought you were gonna throw names around for a second. You said and then he's gonna say, oh,
you have no idea how close I am.
Yeah. I sensed it.
But I have also resolved to not give the assholes airtime, and because trolls enjoy being fed, and I've come to I will call out dishonest behavior or arrogant behavior or bad behavior, but by and large I'm not going to feed the trolls who are out there. And if I have a criticism about Limitless's social media activities, I think they're fighting battles they shouldn't be fighting, and getting involved with shit they shouldn't be. But that's just my opinion on that.
You know what my opinion is on that?
Yes.
At least they have social media.
You know what? You make such a good and solid point. Yes, they do, and they're active on it, and they're actively supporting the region. A more long-term issue we probably have to solve is the fact that I think that there are more Limitless fans outside of SSA than there are in SSA. And somehow that's an issue that would be nice to get addressed at some point. But yeah, to change tack slightly, LDC, I've got an opinion I want to get from you. Hey with Riz, unbelievably good team. Hey with Riz up against Maestros on equal ping. Who's taking that down?
Probably Maestros, because if they, I feel like they will play better as a team other than Hey with Riz. Hey with Riz isn't really, a team. They're just a group of 3 skilled Rocket League players. I don't really think that they're on the same level as Maestros are, because Maestros mesh together much better than Hey with Riz does.
So a couple of things in chat. Asterix has said HWR greater than Maestro. Oh, Hey with Riz. God, I'm so dumb. He was using the abbreviation. So he reckons Hey with Riz is probably better on equal ping. And I just gotta give a shout out to chatting around. Q is here. He and Mr. Bepic doing an excellent job on the Limitless team stream. It was great to see them there. And then Torres slipped into the chat. How's it, Torres? Clearly not out partying tonight in Cape Town, sitting down watching a podcast. Good man. In between scrims, I would assume. Good to see and have you guys there. Let's talk about the final. Well, hold on. Wait. Let's talk about the road up to the final. So Limitless Hey with Riz. I mean, that was as entertaining as that very same fixture was in the first Open, going to a Game 7 overtime, and I was pretty stressed there mostly because it had the potential of there being a grand final with not a single SSA player in it, which would have been a little rough.
I think that that's the last thing we want to see, and like you just mentioned, I feel like we should be locking in more teams into top 8 before we complain about no SSA grand final. I think Limitless is still good enough to beat Hey with Riz, like LDC said. I think they are pretty disorganized as a team. And if they keep with that attitude, then it's benefit to Limitless. But it's also not nice saying, well, the only reason we're top 2 is because the other players just don't play as much. And I think that this weekend happened the way that it was going to. Limitless fought. They came close in the semifinals, and it was a fantastic series. I was screaming for Limitless the entire way. I was rather impassive heading into it. I hadn't really picked a side because I'll support the SSA player, but I'll also support the good game. And that was an incredibly good game to watch. And I think that ultimately leading up into the final, Limitless and Maestros, that was going to happen. The road there, was littered with a couple of interesting events, like Hayworth was almost taking them down, but it was almost a carbon copy of what happened the first time. But Hayworth Riz had an easy way through. Obviously losing to Maestros in the uppers on the way there. So I feel like the natural order of things had already been setting itself up for this grand final. So when it finally did get here, it was like a sigh of relief that it is what we predicted,
Yes.
rather than something that was completely unexpected.
And then LDC, take us through Maestro's Cosmico. What did Cosmico need to do to get closer to Maestro's?
I think like we were on. I think maybe mentally we were like in a weird spot where we knew that we played really, really well against 77 blocks. I mean, we sort of almost completely shut them out. We were in the mindset where, okay, if we play like this, then then we're just gonna win this next series as well, because like obviously you want to carry over the sort of the mental that you're in, the mental state. I think that we started the series very well. I felt like maybe we were trying out different things, because obviously the first 2 games we lost in 1-goal game fashion. And we were trying different things to see if we can hurt them in a certain way, which is obviously not easy, like changing strategy or changing like the whole play style of the whole team, like in a series, like especially in a semi-final and a best of 7, is not easy. I think we tried. I think we tried really well. I think we tried the right things to try, and I think it just didn't work out. And it didn't work out 4 games in a row. That's the way it is sometimes.
And well, I mean, there's one more regional to go, and your what's the minimum requirement for Cosmico in 3rd regional?
I think we want to make sure that we repeat our top 4 finish. Obviously, we want to look further than that, but I think that this team is supposed to be sitting around that placement. I think anything less than top 4 for now would be, would be a disappointment. Like I said before, I think we were really, really close to beating Limitless in the upper bracket semis or the quarter. But we won game 1, and then we had a couple of games, like 3 games in a row, where we definitely could have scored a lot more goals. We were, like I said before, we were like, I felt like we were crossbar merchants, and we were screwing up on some offensive opportunities that we really should nail. So I think that we're really close to beating Limitless. Obviously, we haven't done it so far, but I don't think that we're far away from doing it, and it wouldn't surprise me that we do it either next regional or in the coming splits.
I feel like this is also, it's something we've been harping on about, but it's something that we don't actually realize, is that yes, to die for, Sweaty and Snowy are good. There's no mistake. Possibly the best. But they also just spend an inordinate amount of time with each other. I mean, as aside from Sweaty replacing Darth on the Limitless team, they've been together for years. And that time constant needs to be recognized as a serious buff. And I feel like the longer that your team stays together, LDC, the better you will be. Because you no longer having to spend, the first half of a season finding synergy so we can be better next week. I feel like once you've been together for an extent of time, and make no mistake, your roster is, you know, a bravado level roster currently. There is there's no doubt that Werty, Cam, and Guns can be the next Limitless. They just need time together because, like I
Mm-hmm.
mentioned on the RLCS cast, is Guns in the same time that it's taken for an SSA to beat Limitless has been on 5 different orgs.
Mm.
Yeah.
In
Yeah.
the same so since the last time Limitless lost to another South African team, Guns has been on 5 orgs, and I'm not pinning him out in general, but I'm saying his stats are normal. I could say the same for Eliakim. I can
Yeah.
say the same for any of those players because
Mm.
they are all doing it.
Mm-hmm.
And until we focus down and do what Cosmico is doing right now, is secure some good talent and hopefully keep them together. The path to getting better is getting punched in the knees by ourselves. We're, we're sticking that rod in our bicycle and wondering why it doesn't work. And I feel like it's one of the easiest things to fix is just stick together for a bit,
Mm.
and you'll remove one of the biggest issues to a cohesive team, which is time.
And that's Bromia's long way around to saying, LDC, make sure this roster stays together because they're really good.
Yeah, that too. Make sure they stay, bro.
No, I actually want to add something to what you said, Bromeo. If I would have to compare it, like from a sports sort of side, I come from like I played a lot of tennis back in the day, and I think that a lot of these rosters that go through a lot of like different iterations and they switch up they switch up a lot is like if you play let's say for instance like a tennis doubles tournament with a certain partner, you start you win, like you lose some tournaments, like you lose some matches, and then there's this one tournament where you start doing better and better and better, you lose the final, and then you're gonna switch to another partner. Like
Mm.
it's so
Hmm.
pivotal for these players and these teams to realize that sticking together and having basically to get to the point is that like if you want to improve as a player yourself, like having your team stick together for quite a long time, or like sticking together through some tough moments, can give you much deeper insight as to how to play the game yourself. Like even like while creating chemistry on the long term is a given, like that's obvious that happens, but it also, because you don't really need to think about what your teammates are doing anymore, you can focus much more on yourself and much more on your own improvement. And I think that's what a lot of players, and especially like bubble players, like not only in SSA but in EU as well, like a lot of those players that are actually really talented, they'll just throw their experience away just because they think that one scrim or one tournament didn't go as they wanted to.
Mm.
And I think that's a shame.
Mm. Well,
I completely agree.
here's hoping you guys stick together and do great things. I would like to talk about Decimate for a moment, because out of everyone, they seem to be the team that is furthest from where they should be in terms of
Mm-hmm.
of capability and potential. And I'm not sure what's going on there, and maybe it's a bit unfair to be asking the Cosmico coach, but I don't know what your thoughts are on Decimate, because they should be a top 8 team.
Yeah, I think that's they're sort of going through like the opposite thing of like a honeymoon period. I think that those three players are very different from each other, and I think they have trouble in the beginning adapting to each other, and learning how each other play can take a while if you play very differently from each other. I think they can become a lot better, and I think that their curve to improving and their curve of their placements will move up rapidly in the coming months. So I think the same thing goes for them. Like obviously they're not doing as well as they would like to now, obviously, but same message to them. I think like sticking together, like they have a really good coach. They have Moomin on their sides, who has been historically like on really good rosters. So I think he will probably be of the same opinion as me. That's sticking together in that way, even though that the results right now might not be what they want. I think they will definitely improve a lot, and find themselves moving up the ladder a lot in the future.
And I see, and I don't know if he says his name Data Lied or if there's a better way to say it, but he's in chat. That's a coach out of APAC, Three Rats coach. And I know he's looking at giving some coaching input in SSA. So I know there were conversations going on. So if you've got an update on that data, I would love to have it. But just some more expert help coming into SSA. Now, the long road to SSA improvement is not just RLCS. There has to be the element of community activities and then high schools. We've got to grow Rocket League in high schools and bust that open as much as we can. And there's VS who do work in high schools, and there's ACGL who do work in high schools. And Mr. High School Rocket League is Yakals. I'm sure many in the community know him. I believe the head of esports out of Paul Roos Gymnasium, and he has a deep and passionate interest in high school Rocket League and maybe even primary school, because I know his son, who is about 7 or 8 now, is a Rocket League fanatic and already better than him. But when it comes to Yakals, that's probably not saying much. But I've asked Yakals to kind of get the information on what's going on with high school Rocket League and what are the opportunities for 2025. So I've asked him to come in and give us the brief on that. Yakals, your debut on the stream. Hello, and how are you?
Hey, thanks a lot. Thank you for having me.
So has the year got off to a cracker in schools? I know when I asked you to come on, you said, "Well, I'm finishing with school at 6:30, so I can come on after that," which was like, what? I thought teachers had an easy job. I thought their work finished at 1:00 every day.
That's mainly my own problem because it's like a junior academy. We host the grade 5, 6, and 7s around the area, so we can try and improve esports in the vicinity, but mainly so that I can get better players.
Okay.
I think you're
Yeah,
2
well,
steps ahead.
Well, it worked. I've already got a B and a C team for Rocket League this year, and last year I only had an A team, and my B
Amazing.
and C is basically just grade 8, and they all came from the academy.
Nice, good going. Now, Yakals, I think we've known each other now probably for about 3 years, or maybe it was as far back as 2021 even, where with the high school finals there, I think we came into contact with each other. I know you've got a long-standing passion for high school esports in general and Rocket League in particular. So give us the scoop. What is on the menu for high schools Rocket League in 2025?
I think this is going to be an amazing year, mainly because we've lost all the big names. We've lost Teacher, we've lost Banana Cat, we've lost basically all the names that everybody knows that plays RLCS. We've lost them. The only name that's left is basically Zany. He's the top player, and then we've got Ender with our school. And then there's a few little bit bubble to lower than bubble players still playing RLCS and school league. So it's this year's open for anybody. So it's going to be very close.
All right. Now there's VS, which is always a little tense because we kind of find out late what's happening, and it's a little bit frustrating to get into. But what is the VS high school layout look like?
Yeah, so VS hasn't disappointed. We're still in the same. We've only got 9 teams so far entered. The registration only closes the end of this week. It's early next week. So if there's school players, you can still enter your team.
And what
VS
happens? Sorry, I've got a question. So is registration closing, and then no more schools can join after that? Is that dead for the year?
No, it's closed for Split 1. So Split 1 is basically like a placing tournament, a lot like RLCS. So you play for placements.
Okay.
And then later they put you into better groups, or you get better seating, and it helps you in the long run. So just to try and get people in term 2, term 3 to get better matchups. So term 1 tends to be a lot one-sided games. Some schools have good teams, and other schools don't. Like LDC said earlier, we can't chop and change players. We need to stick with them for 5 years if we get them in grade 8. So they have to play because they want to play. But so we've got time to build them into a proper team.
Excellent.
So Yuckles, I met you in person at one of the lands you were attending. I can't remember which one it was exactly because there's been a couple now. But I I just want to say this, more for the people watching this, is that we all get so tied up thinking that our Rocket League community is just a couple of yappers and six mans when it's actually a whole country of people playing Rocket League. You're just not talking to them.
Yeah, well,
And the I went to this land with you, and it's this whole hall of everybody just playing Rocket League, and then somebody's playing Fortnite in the corner, but who cares about them? And I thought this was absolutely fantastic because this is where the next generation of players is going to come from, and nobody knows about it. Nobody's talking about it, and I feel like that. Greybeard included, Yuckles. I'm so glad we're having these conversations because that is the next big growth point, and it's happening right in front of our eyes, but nobody's talking about it.
yeah, that's where ASL, the Nitro School League, the other league, they're a bit more on admin. So
Mhm.
their closing slot finished today. So there was 56 Rocket League teams that signed up for the Nitro ASL
56.
League. Yeah.
And does that represent 56 schools, or is that some schools have more than one team?
So some schools have I've got 3 teams. Swartkop has got 3 teams, and then
Okay.
there's a primary school in Stain City that's got 7 teams in the league.
What?
So
A
split one.
primary school?
Wow.
Yeah, so split
Now
one, the primary
that's
schools.
thinking. That's thinking.
Yeah, so split one, primary and high school teams play in the same pool, and they try and get the better teams into a Premier League, and then the less players into the normal league.
Mhm.
So it happens. That's where Brackenfell Knights ended up last year, primary school, playing in a Premier Division with schools like Polroos, Hoërskool Oosmoed, and the teams that had all the proper players. So they took a beating, but it was good for them because when they played the primary school finals, they just absolutely just demolished all the primary school.
Mm. And based on the early signups and the school, and you're quite familiar with the high school player base, who would you say are the sort of top 5-ish schools we should be keeping an eye on this year?
Like I said earlier, it's going to be very tough because everybody lost their name players. But I mean, last year we had I see is at the back of your screen as well. We had Muntu from Team C that just came out of nowhere and just
Yeah.
became somebody. So we're hoping for a few of them. But at this stage, Swartkop's got a very good team still. They've got most of their players. Traditionally, Point High School, Waterkloof has still got one of their players. Oosmoed, they've lost a few players, but they're traditionally still a very strong school. Grey High has got Grey College has got 3 teams. They've got one decent team still, and then Edgemead every single year they've got good teams. Southbound still is there; he's their coach as well. CPZ's with us, so hopefully we can be contesting against them. So yeah, I think there's about 5 or 6 schools that's going to be really, really tough to beat. We hope we're one of them.
Well, maybe you can get to die for to go back to school since you got Zebra there. You can get him.
They actually signed up 1 year, and he was in the team, and everybody just freaked out because he was there, but he never played a game. So
Okay.
qualified, yeah.
So are we going to see PRG back at the top? Because when you used to, when we spoke about high school Rocket League, it was like, okay, PRG, you were like the Limitless of high school Rocket League. We're going to see you guys back there this year.
Well, we've passed the EU bubble now in high schools. A lot of the schools are catching up now. So
Okay.
we're all very contested. So I hope we're going to be there. I've still got Ender, and I've still got another 18 players. So 2 of them are still staying, and then one of my junior academy kids are coming in, slotting in as the third, and the other junior academy guys on the bench. So we've been working with them for a year with them. So I think we're better ahead of the other schools, but players are players.
Now you've said when the signups are closing, registrations are closing. When do the leagues get underway in anger?
So ASL Nitro, they had to arrange teams at 6 o'clock today. So they have to play this week. So game one's this week. Yeah, so there's a pretty good game. Gray is playing somebody else. I can't remember who, but that's going to be a very Grand Swartkop. That's going to be a very good game this week.
Mm-hmm.
DS Gaming, we're still waiting. So it's next week, and we've got a week after that. And both teams are basically, or both leagues has got their own national land final, which we are playing for.
Okay.
So that's basically this is just a trial seeding tournament until June. Then it's national, the AGC land for ASL, and September at Comic Con we've got the BS Gaming High School.
So two potential lands in the future for High School Rocket League, and I want to do a huge punt for streaming of high school games. I see Ginger Muzz is in the chat. He says he's waiting for Yuckles to hit him up. I don't know what that's about. So get hold of Muzz. But any people who want to do Rocket League content creation, streaming, high schools is ripe for the taking. You know, like RLCS team streams. Pick a school, pick a couple of schools, pick a league, pick a tournament, pick something. And let's make superstars out of these high school players, because our future is going to come out of there. I mean, I don't know why Devour's school are not playing Rocket League. I don't know why Ravi's high school aren't playing Rocket League. But other players like Minoto, Zany, as Yuckles has mentioned, there are superstars for the discovering in high school. And our streamers and content creators can help discover them and, you know, feed them into the competitive scene and help to grow exactly what we've been talking about, to, you know, get good enough to repel the invasion and help SSA get to the top. And Yuckles, we, as we've spoken about, I'm definitely going to want to get you on a regular basis for updates on how schools are doing, who are the star players, key players to watch. So I fully trust you'll keep your finger on the pulse of what's going on in High School Rocket League.
Definitely, I need to. Otherwise, we're going to fall behind.
Well, A, you're going to fall behind, and B, we're going to have very awkward podcast conversations. So. But Bang, I'm very excited for the future of what that can bring, and I know you've been at the forefront, and I hope you will recruit a few others like yourself who become incredibly passionate about it. Because once schools see the potential of esports in their school, they become quite passionate about it. I mean, there's quite a well, what would you say is the barrier to getting esports into schools? Is it just a lack of knowledge or understanding, or they just think it's wild and crazy? What's the issue?
I think the first thing is everybody think you need these massive PCs to play.
Mm-hmm.
And luckily for us, Rocket League is not a game that needs a massive PC. The better your PC, obviously, the better your performance, but you can get in with an entry-level PC. That's the one thing, and you can play console as well, so you don't even need. And schools don't have to buy their own things. The kids, they live with it. They brought up with it, so you just need 3 players, any 3 players. You can start a Rocket League team, and before the end of the year, those sweats will come out of your school, and they will want to be part of the team. So it's just basically a little bit of admin, and that's it. It's not that hard to get into school esports, and I get mails daily for schools that want to join. But they
Nice.
just get lost somewhere. Schools just then think a lot of the schools that are more traditional are scared of the fact, because they know esports is massive and it's gonna become massive. So
Well, brilliant. I hope we can see explosive growth in that scene in the year to come. But Yuckles, thank you very much for coming out to hang. And yeah, as I said, you'll be a regular feature here, bringing us all the scoop and drama and intrigue and excitement of High School Rocket League. And thanks for being there and doing it.
thanks for having me. It'll be anytime.
Any time indeed. Thank you, man. Be well. We'll chat again very soon. Cheers, man.
Bye.
All right, so that's High School Rocket League, and that really is, I mean, what do you say, 53, 57 teams, which is great, but it feels like it needs to be in the hundreds.
And it will be, because we're just talking about one one league. I remember there was like 100 and something teams in one of the either ACGL or VS signups, and it's massive. I mean, VS gets more signups for high school than it does for its premier tier, which is wild, by the way, because that
It is
makes no
wild.
sense. But there's so much opportunity at high school level. You're talking about get involved in high school. I mean, I was at the Waterkloof LAN, and one of the teachers was by, and he says, "Oh, are you a caster?" And I'm like, "Yeah, I do like to cast on sometimes." And he's like, "Listen, here's my number, please. We need somebody to stream our games." And at the point, I didn't have a setup that could handle, streaming out. So, that's something that never happened. But there is, for every single school that has a Rocket League team, there is a paid
If
position
y'all don't
as a
follow
streamer
Graybeard, you need to get in there.
that is right there willing to be taken. So if you're a streamer out there, if you're an aspiring caster, look at the schools in one of the tournaments, ACGL, whatever. Contact them, say, "I can stream your games for you."
Huge, and the potential for growth there is fantastic. So get on it. All right, Yakals, thanks for being there, and we'll see you again. And Yak, thank you for following. Welcome aboard. Good to have you. And that brings us to reformatting 1v1. So I should say at this point that after this podcast tonight, I am taking a week off.
If
I am
y'all
going to
don't follow Graybeard, you need to get in there.
Thank
Jimmy,
you.
You say that, but last
Yeah.
time you said you were going to take a week off, you took like 2 days, and then you were like, "Oh, I'm going to play some Rocket League again."
Yeah, well, I'm determined this time, but we'll see how it goes. But I feel like I need to leave everything Rocket League for a week so I can think a little bit, and that's going to include the 1v1 show matches. And Bromeo, I need to talk to you, and LDC, maybe I can get some input from you. I do weekly 1v1 show matches, and right now I have some sponsorship. So there's a 1,000 Rand prize pool a week, and that was given by Virtuoso out of North America, who's another person not from SSA who discovered SSA, fell in love with it, and was like, "Hey, I'll give you some money for some 1v1s." So that's been fantastic. Now, my issue with the 1v1s is that I need some kind of a format because it's intended to be for high-level 1v1. We want to see the cream of the crop 1v1s, and there's a lot of people coming into my Discord who want to get on, and it's very difficult to give everybody a shout. And it's gotten to the point where it needs a little bit of structure. So I'm not quite sure what that looks like, but there needs to be some sort of pre-qualifying or something in order to get onto the mainstream, as it were, for a 1v1 show match. So what that looks like, I'm not entirely sure, but I'm thinking about that in my week off. So it does mean there won't be any 1v1 show matches this week, which is unfortunate because last week's show matches were interrupted by the Rocket League servers taking a fat one in the middle, and we only got one of the three done. So in particular, there's a Ravi and T-Shao matchup, which is mouth-watering, which was supposed to happen last week. It didn't. That'll probably happen next week. But in this week, I'm going to think about what that should look like and then set that up, and then we make it happen. Data in chat is saying qualifies to main event. I don't want it to be like it. It's still got to have that show match vibe about it. So anyway, anybody who's got ideas, my DMs are always open. I'd love your ideas. Bromeo, if you've got an idea, LDC, with the greatest of pleasure, I'll take your ideas on board. But there is definite interest in it, and I want to nurture that flame of interest, because that, for me, is another leg of SSA Rocket League development. Is a lot of people playing ones, and a lot of people being very good at ones. I think it gives you such a good basic foundation. Hello, Max. Good to see you. So there we go. That's what's happening with 1v1s, which is nothing this week. Stay tuned for news next week. And then Asterix had a good idea. That's name check number 5 for Asterix, to have a Discord for SSA coaches. And I don't know how popular that'll be. I don't know how much of a need there is for it. But we've set up a SSA coach section inside my Discord where SSA coaches can talk to each other. about whatever they want to talk to each other about. So whether that's a need or not, I don't know, but it's there. We're inviting all the SSA coaches into it, and hopefully it'll become a useful resource. So just so you know, it's there. Speaking of coaches, I know Kirika is looking for a team to coach. Kirika is an astonishingly good, and Bromia will absolutely vouch for her in terms of her organizing skills, her management skills, her people skills with teams and Rocket League teams in particular. So if you're looking for a coach, hit up Kirika. And this is where you jump in with a vouch, Bromia.
No, vouch for 100%. If you've seen the way that she runs an RSC franchise, and that's four separate teams, running one team would be an absolute cakewalk. She's meticulous. She pays attention to detail, and she does her homework. So I couldn't vouch for her higher.
Well, she's getting some vouchers in chat as well. So there you go. So yeah, go check Twitter and find Kirika there if your team needs a coach, and it probably does. And VS Gaming. So in addition to the high school stuff, VS Gaming have also officially launched their season for 2025. And their first event is this weekend. So there's on Saturday and Sunday, it's a single elimination 3 versus 3 starting this weekend. So you've got mere days to go and sign up. So if you want to be part of that, I believe there's no prize pool for it, but you do get points which accumulate, which add to the eventual LAN in September. So it's probably worth going there and signing up and playing. So get in touch with me. I'll send you the links that you need in order to go and sign up and where to find that. And similar, there's the ACGL ladder, which they announced last Monday. I announced it for the first time on the podcast last week, a 10,000 Rand ladder, which basically means you get onto the ACGL website, you set up challenges, you sign up with a team, you play other teams. The more you do that, the more points you get. And in March, at the end of March, the top participants will be given a 10,000 Rand tournament. And no one has signed up for it. So, there are many problems with Rocket League and SSA, but part of it is the community not getting behind these things. So go and check out the ACGL ladder. Again, I will give you all the links you need. So get in touch with me ASAP. And then as we come to the end, there we go. Blank in chat is weeping. He's crying because no one has signed up. Get involved right now. And ACGL, they are Rocket League's biggest friend right now, bringing you the RLCS broadcasts, which are absolutely world class. So, and now they're giving us things in the community. So go and sign up for these things. Chop, cheap, and right now. And so let's go through this week's birthdays. Only 2 birthdays in SSA to announce this week. And first is on the 6th of February, Dilly turned 17. So Dilly, happy birthday to you. I hope it was a good one. And then our next birthday, there's probably a lot of people who don't even know who this is, but he is an OG of SSA Rocket League, was involved from he's like a hipster of Rocket League, was involved before it was cool. And that is Elf on the 8th. Elf turned 33. Elf is now Jesus years old, so he's a proper OG of the scene. And Elf, happy birthday to you. Not so involved in Rocket League anymore, which makes me cry a little, but a really special individual, so happy birthday to him. And I believe, gentlemen, that pretty much wraps up. And in fact, we've gone back a week because that says Just Saying episode 20 and it's 21. So LDC, we've gone back in time. We're rolling back the years. LDC, your closing thoughts on anything.
I think I just have a message to the SSA teams. Grind your ass off. Work together, stay together, stick together through thick and thin. improve together, and let's kick these stupid ass CU teams out of the fucking region. Let's go.
Well said. Well said. There you go. That's a proper message. And Bromeo.
I mean, I had my hot takes at the beginning, so it's only fair that LDC had his at the end. But I've got nothing new to say. I think that we've complained a lot, we've cried a lot, we've lost a lot, but now is the time to do something about it. I don't care, honestly, if we don't see an SSA team at the majors for a while, because we don't deserve to be there. So let's earn it back. Let's get better. Let's do something about it.
I want to repeat a comment I made some weeks ago, and I've said this to a few people, and I just want to reiterate it. If you imagine this was 2019, nearly 6 years ago now, and the tiny, tiny little Rocket League community that existed then, people like Thalassa, people like Skill Steel, of course, Snowy and Mother and CP Zebra and Shadow and I'm trying to remember, Empty Promises. There's a blast from the past. If those players had been approached and been told that, hey guys, we got some good news, you're going to be allowed to play in the RLCS. However, you'll be playing with EU players, but they have to play on your ping. It would have been embraced with gusto and enthusiasm. And it is only because we had 2 luxurious years where we had region isolation and we could play amongst ourselves, and the top teams could earn $6,000 a regional. Because it started that way and now it's gone to this, that we feel like we have lost something. But in the grander scheme, we have gained things. And it is time for SSA as a region to galvanize. We make the choice to leave, or we make the choice to fight. And I think everybody that's certainly here tonight, and the people in chat, and by and large, there are lots of us who have chosen to fight. Let's go and fight hard. And I want to once again extend my plea to people who are not from SSA who want to help the region. Players, coaches, tournament organizers, orgs, people with money. If you want to come and sponsor community things, we have things like the RSC, the biggest community esport league out of any title anywhere in the entire region of SSA is Rocket League. That is ripe for support, for help, for sponsorship. So if you've got money to throw around, I got a big tank to fill up with money. So I'd be more than happy to have a conversation with you. And once again, this is the best time we have ever had in Rocket League for this region. Things have never been this good. And that's going to conclude my preaching. We're going to end off from me, Greybeard, from Bromeo, and the Cosmico coach, LDC. Peace. See you next Monday.